Hi, this is Kim from KimberlyKoehler.com, and I have a new tutorial for you today. So last week I showed you how to make this bracelet. So it is a gemstone bracelet with wire wrapped bead links that are interconnected. So I showed you how to make this without using jump rings in between. So today I'm going to show you the other technique, and that technique does take jump rings. So I highly recommend you go back to that video last week and check that out. But basically what I want to show you is kind of a different way to make these gemstone bracelets that everybody is enjoying lately. So these are the stretchy ones. I'll link my stretch bracelet video below, and then this one is from I showed you from last week, which is the wire wrapped bead links that are interconnected. And then I also showed you this. This one is just strung on beading string and then has the crimp beads and a clasp. So I can show link to an example of that in the description below the video. Alright, so let me show you the materials and tools. So I'm going to be using gemstone beads. I'm actually going to take apart this stretch bracelet. I had made it before. I made a whole bunch of stretch bracelets. I got kind of obsessed with them, but now I want to actually make this into a wire wrapped bead link bracelet. So these are Labradorite beads. They're my favorite. Any gemstone beads you like. These are 8mm. I believe I showed you this last week. This gemstone chunks. You can easily use any beads for this technique, and it doesn't have to be a bracelet either. You can make it into a necklace. So you'll need those, and then you'll need wire. I like to use para wire. So I like to use the 20 gauge, like most of the time, unless your beads have bore holes that are too small for the 20 gauge, then you can go to a smaller gauge like 22 or 24. I like to use round wire. Also, para wire has lots of different colors you can use. It's non-tarnish. I love this wire. If you're using different wire, half hard wire is what you want to look for. And then you will also need some jump rings. I don't think it really matters what size you use. These are 8mm jump rings, yes. I just get these from Fire Mountain Gems. And then you will also need some tools. So you'll need wire cutters, chain nose pliers, round nose pliers, and then a second pair of kind of flat on the inside pliers. So you can use another pair of chain nose pliers, or kind of like this flat nose pliers, or I'm using bent nose pliers, so they're bent. They work really well for wrapping when you need like a little extra maneuvering capability. So these are the tools you'll need. You'll also need a clasp, and I'll just be using a lobster clasp for this. Alright, let's get started. So we're going to start by cutting a piece of wire. You want it to be a few inches longer than your bead. So my beads are just small. So I'm just going to cut it like, you know, a little over 3 inches long. Actually, this is longer than that. It's like 4.5, 5 inches long. It's fine. I have said this. I said it in the last video. I say it in most videos that it's actually better to cut a little bit too much wire and have a little bit waste than to cut a piece of wire that's too small that you end up wasting the whole entire piece of wire. Also, honestly, it's kind of easier to deal with doing wire wrapping with a longer piece of wire. So whatever you prefer. If you are being very specifically careful, maybe you're using sterling silver wire or something like that, then I would say just cut 3 inches and be careful. This wire is not that expensive, and I just like my wire wrapping to be enjoyable. So honestly, it's a little bit easier when it's a little too long. So there's your little tip. So we are going to take our round nose pliers. We are going to hold the wire about 1.5 inches from the top, and you are going to want to try to make all your loops in this project about the same size. So try to line it up in the same spot on your barrel, the barrel of your pliers here, like the little part down here, at the same spot each time. You can just use a little Sharpie and make a mark. I just have been eyeballing it lately. I will link to a tip for making uniform loops, a video I made. I'll link that below. So we are going to take this top part of the wire and wrap it down and around one barrel of these pliers to form a loop. And there we go. And then we are going to grab our chain nose pliers, hold the loop in those, and you're going to wrap around one time. This is how I straighten out my loop, so it's kind of straight above the rest of the wire. I just pull out the wire as I go around one time, and then I switch hands. Grab my bent nose pliers. You can use any other pliers. If the wire's long enough, you can just use your hands, honestly. And then wrap around 2 more times. Okay. And then we're going to trim off the excess using our wire cutters. We're going to make a flush cut, so you're going to use the flat side of the wire cutters toward the work. So that will leave behind a flat cut here. The other side has the pinch cut. And then you just grab your round nose, or your chain nose pliers again, and just make sure that end is not poking out. And then I just like to kind of squeeze. I actually did these wraps pretty well, but in case you didn't wrap them very closely, you can just squeeze the wraps together. And then we're going to place the bead on here. And then grab our round nose pliers again. Hold it about 1/4 inch above. Again, try to hit the same spot kind of on the barrel of your pliers to make a similar size loop. And then we're just going to do the same thing again. Wrap this around, form a loop. You see it's a little bit off center there, so I'm just going to hold the chain nose. I'm going to hold the loop in my chain nose pliers. We're going to wrap around once while we pull that out straight, so the loop is straight above. And then we switch hands. I'm going to grab my bent nose pliers here and do 2 more loops. Okay, whoops. And then I'm just going to trim off the excess, making a flush cut like I showed you on the other side. And then just make sure that end is not poking out. And then, so that's how you make a wire wrapped bead link. So now what we're going to do is just make a whole bunch, enough to create our bracelet. So however long you want to make a bracelet. So for me, these are all coming out to be about 1 inch. So if I wanted a 7-inch bracelet, I'd probably want to do about 6 of these, actually, taking into consideration the jump rings and the clasp. So I'm going to make 6 of these, and then I'll show you how to finish this up. Okay, so like I said, I made 6 wire wrapped bead links. Here they are. Ta-da! The magic of TV. And now we're just going to attach them with jump rings. So I am going to show you how to open a jump ring, in case you don't know. So here's my jump ring, and then I just like to open all the jump rings I need for a project at one time. So I'm just going to go ahead and open a bunch. So jump rings have a little opening. If you can't see it, sometimes it's hard to see them. If you just run your finger around the jump ring, you can find the little opening. It's just kind of a little slit. And then you just grab a pair of chain nose pliers, and I like to use a pair of bent nose pliers. You could use any other pliers you like, as long as they're not round nose pliers and nothing with teeth in them, because that's going to destroy your jump ring. And just line up your pliers on either side, one on each side of the opening. And then we're just going to bring one pair of pliers toward us, one away from us, and you're going to keep that loop, but it's open now, see? So you don't want to pull out. That's what a lot of people do, or they're not really thinking about it. So you want to try to keep that circular shape. And so, like I said, I like to open all the jump rings I need for a project at one time. So I've actually already have done that. And then we're just going to connect all the wire wrapped bead links we made. So grab a jump ring, put one loop from two different wire wrapped bead links together in this jump ring, and then we're going to close the jump ring. So to close it, it's basically just the opposite. I like to go back and forth past the point of closing a couple of times and get it real lined up. You can even sometimes hear it snap into place. And now they're connected. And then we're just going to continue with that until we have all our links connected. I also wanted to mention, so this is a very simple bracelet with just like these gemstone beads. I just wanted to give an alternative to the stretchy gemstone bracelets. But you can use any beads you like to make a bracelet like this. And you don't have to just put one bead on a link. You could put 2 or 3 beads on a link, however many you like. And then I'd also say you can embellish this even more. So on some of my bracelets, the ones I'm actually wearing, let me get this one closed, I actually have some charms on the end, so that's just kind of toward the end of the bracelet. But you could actually add charms to different sections as well. On this particular type of bracelet with the jump rings, as you're adding the jump rings, you could just slide a charm in there as well, or you could do bead dangles. I can link a video on how to make a bead dangle. So it's basically just a bead that dangles. It just has the one loop, not the second loop. And that would be a really cool look as well. So I think I have all my beads attached now. And now you're just going to do the same thing to attach a clasp. Like I mentioned, I'm using a lobster clasp here. And it just has a little loop in it. Put that in. And then one end of your bracelet in the jump ring. Again, we're just going to close the jump ring there. And then I just like to add 1 or 2 jump rings to the end. And like I was showing you on my bracelets I'm wearing, the very end is usually where I will add a charm for my bracelet if I'm going to add one. So on this one I'm going to add 2 jump rings. You can decide how many jump rings you need at the end depending on how long you need your bracelet to be. You could just use the loop on the end of the wire wrapped bead link to hook your clasp into if that's the size you need. It never hurts to have a couple extra because you don't have to actually hook into the very end. In fact, I like there to be a couple extra jump rings on the ends of my bracelet because it's easier to get it on my wrist that way. So this is the second technique. Like I will link the first technique, and then next week, like I mentioned, I'm going to have a little blog post about color. I don't think I'm going to do a video for that. I think it's easier kind of as a blog post. So I will share that with you next week. To stay connected, if you want to subscribe to my channel, you just click the little bell and it will let you know when I have a new video out. When you get on YouTube, it will be on your feed. Or you could sign up for my newsletter. I send out a newsletter when I have new videos or blog posts or things available for you. So I will link that below. You'll find all the links I mentioned in this video below in the description, or you can go over to my website, KimberlyKoehler.com, to my blog, and then you'll see it all there as well. So I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for everything. So I will see you next week.